Good evening, Lionsgate Baptist Church, and welcome to our Wednesday midweek service. This is what I'm going to call our after revival chit chat. What do you think?
It's
Talk?
Kind of corny.
Kind of corny. Our after revival reflections. I like that one.
That's good.
Yeah, I'll have to come up with a graphic or something for that. But our after revival reflections. So I just want to take a moment and allow us the opportunity to reflect a little bit on the revival, as well as ask some questions of Pastor Stone that we don't normally have the time during the revival to do that. He's busy preaching, and that's his focus, and that's his goal, to help our church. But now I just want to take a moment, and we'll just talk a little bit. And so let me ask you, how do you think the revival went?
That was awesome. I don't think we've ever had a bad one. Your folks are just sweet people. I always feel so welcomed here. And I really feel like your folks prepare for revival. I think there's been some prayer and been some thought. And they're always gracious about letting me know that a message has spoken to their heart. That really helps. That helps an evangelist to know that the message is being received. And I don't think they're just placating. I think they really mean it. And I really do. I've said it and I say it. I really do look forward to coming to Lionsgate every year. And I appreciate that you do that. I think there's a great idea there in having, the same person back more than one time, because you get to build that rapport. Most times in evangelism, I go to a church, and if I don't know that church, I have to somehow connect with that church very quickly to be able to get the message, because here's something that a lot of preachers don't get, is that you do have to make a connect with your audience. You can go in and preach and give the message, but if you don't connect, it's going to be gone as soon as you leave. So I've already made that connection with Lionsgate. They've connected with me. I know where they're at. I know your children. I know, those who are working and not working and some of those things, even in a very short time. So that really helps the evangelist. So saying all that, I say that this was another great revival. I think some great decisions were made. I could tell we had some people come forward, but doing something a little bit different with that prayer time does allow me to know that people have received the word. I think we went almost 10 minutes, 12 minutes the other night with people praying, standing and praying. When they're done, they're seated. And so there's some great thought given. So I think, it was good. It was really good.
I definitely like the idea of having an evangelist come multiple times. And several years ago, I made the decision that as long as the Lord allows us, we're going to have Dr. Stone come every year. It does allow you to connect so much more. And I do think the church begins to get excited, and there's that expectation of, oh, Brother Stone's coming, he's going to be preaching, and he knows us.
He's bringing his wife.
He's bringing his wife. Yeah, I know that's what everybody.
That's what they all want.
So I know that the church would love to see your wife, but
They will. They will.
Next year is the
For
plan.
Sure. Yep.
All right,
yeah, for sure. Lord willing.
We'll see Dr. Stone's better half next.
Yeah, I'm the bitter half. She's the better half.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to that, and we have seen great response, and I am thankful for our church people. They have always been so gracious that you can tell they're listening, they're attentive, and they're ready for these revivals, and they're ready to hear something from the Lord. Mm-hmm. And I believe we saw that over the last few days. I really think we saw God work, and we saw many people make different decisions in their lives, and we're just thankful to be able to have church. So this year it's been a bit unusual.
Yeah.
Compared to our other revivals.
Other unusuals.
Other unusual. So 2020, right?
That's right.
Someone said that's going to become a meme in a few years.
Oh, it's a meme. All right.
Yeah. So, anything weird that happens, just be like, that's so 2020.
Yeah. That's so COVID.
Yeah. I don't know when it's going to end. Hopefully before 2021. But, anyways, it does make church interesting.
It does.
And we had a great time at Greater Vancouver. Again, we thank them for opening up their building, allowing us to meet. And we preached online. How was preaching online to a camera?
Well, I again, years ago saw that, video was coming. So I embrace it. A lot of people don't like it. They, talking to the camera. I don't mind it at all. I love the camera, and it loves me. Don't you think? It just adds those 30 extra pounds.
Does it add 30 pounds or take away 30 pounds?
No. So. I don't mind it. Of course, you always want a live audience. You love the response of the audience. And of course, with technology, they can send a message in now and get that. But no, I love seeing people's faces. I love looking into their eyes, and it's just much more personal. But if this is what the best that we can do, then let's embrace it, let's use it, and let's love it. So
yeah, well, let's talk to our associate pastor here, Pastor Manny. What did you think of the revival, and did the Lord, and what did the Lord maybe speak to your heart about?
Man, the revival was great. I mean, all the messages every night. Thursday night, we're just digging the ditch, just launching out in faith. Something that spoke to me. Friday night, again, another great message that I needed. I'm sure everyone else needed. Just it's not about just going through the motions. Sometimes it can become so easy for all of us just to do that, right? And something definitely that I needed as well. And even with Sunday night, but if not, another great message. All these messages just really speaking to my heart and everyone's heart. I'm sure I'm just really appreciate Pastor Stone coming and bringing the word, and it's something that definitely we needed. I needed to have that.
Yeah, I love that we can still connect. Obviously, Manny and I are a different age. We're like 4 years apart, and 40 years apart. How old are you, Manny? How old are you?
I'm 25.
25. So, and I'm 57. So we're 30 plus years apart. But I still feel a connect to that generation, and love that generation really wants good, solid preaching. And as much as, we talk about people wanting music, you're very musical and your music adds so much to the services here. It's the preaching that people really want. And it doesn't matter what age group. We kind of have, 3 age groups right here, and we all want the same thing. We want the Word of God, and we want it delivered properly. And so I appreciate that. And I appreciate the youth that you bring to the service and to the church. It really has a great deal. Awesome.
Yeah, I still think of myself as young, but I guess I'm getting up there now.
You're midlife.
In my mind, I'm 25, Pastor Manny. Yeah, just starting, but
that's right.
It's not true.
I am too. I'm 25 in my mind.
Yeah, I guess time goes quickly, and it's when you get to certain points, you take stock of where you're at, and you think, this is where we got to go, and this is where we're at. But we are thankful to have, I guess, every decade represented here, really. So it's pretty exciting. Well, I just want to take a moment, maybe ask you a couple questions about evangelism.
Sure.
You retired. You're not pastoring full time anymore. So why don't you let us know what is it like to travel around? I know you did before, but as a full time job, what is it like to travel around and minister to different churches?
Right. Well, definitely not retired. I'm probably going more now than I ever have. The first year that I left the pastorate and went into evangelism, I was gone about 270 days of the 365. So I was kind of a great deal. Balancing that with a wife is a little tricky. Now, Ruthie was able to come with me on a few occasions. She still works. She works from home, so she can bring her computer with her, and we're good to go. But we also had a grandchild in that first period. And so that was tricky because she wanted to be there for that grandchild and help my daughter. Well, then, just a few months ago, we had our second grandchild. So now we have 2. And everybody's solidified and everything's good. So she's going to start traveling a little bit more. She was going to come with me to this meeting, but her mom is 84 years of age, and she's starting to show her age a little bit. And so Ruthie wanted to go and spend that time with her, and I told her she needed to go. She's not seen her since November of last year. And I know you've got a lot of folks in your church who've not seen family for years at a time, many of them back in the Philippines, and maybe trying to get family over. I've been on cruise ships, and they said, you know what, I haven't seen my family for 6 months, a year, because they're sending money home to their family. So that was a real adjustment, being together every day, all day, to 270 days apart was definitely a transition. I love traveling. I love meeting people. I love being with new churches. I love promoting bearing precious seed. So that part is awesome. But after 3 or 4 days, I really start missing my wife. And to be gone in this trip, I will have been gone pretty close to a month without seeing my wife and my kids and my grandkids. Praise God for FaceTime. Praise God for texting and the phone that we can communicate with. That really helps. But I think evangelism today is a little different because we used to have week-long meetings. Now it's 3-4 days at the most. People just can't make that full week commitment. There's too much. And especially in a city like this, to cross the city or to get a hall that you can use, very difficult. So it's been a little more concentrated with 3 or 4 days and doing, maybe 2 or 3 things within those days. So a little bit different that way.
I know a church that has a revival every summer that meets for 4 weeks straight every night.
Wow.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think it would be awesome. Is it in Canada?
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
Wow. I don't know that I know that, but
Now they don't have the same preacher every week. They do
Right.
like a week with one guy and a week
Okay.
with another guy.
Wow.
But I got to say, I don't think I'd ever do that. But those people, wow, that's a lot.
If they can do that,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
So I know Brother Carlson, Rob Carlson, has some extended meetings like that, but I didn't know of one that goes a full month. That used to be the norm, and people went. But here was the difference. A lot of moms didn't work. My mom, worked part-time, but only after I went to school. So a lot of mothers were home, and they would have supper ready and the kids ready, and dad would come home, change his clothes, have something to eat, and off to the revival. They come home, and mom puts the kids to bed. We don't have that today. Moms are working and rushing to get there as well.
Yeah, I would say the majority of our ladies at our church work full-time jobs.
I only had 1 or 2 ladies that did not work in our church. Most of them were older ladies, but yeah, they all worked.
I know living in, being in a major city, a lot of times it's necessary just to survive.
Every city today. In Canada, it's very expensive everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it sounds like you're having a great time. I couldn't leave my wife for a month. I just couldn't do that.
Well, she's asked me to take you with me.
Oh.
She needs the break.
That's
she'd like to get some work done for a change.
That's not true.
That's not true. That's not true.
If I go away for one night, I'm already homesick and I'm ready to go home. So I admire that. I don't know if I could do that. Maybe when I'm 57.
Maybe when you're 57. And it's because of what the Lord is doing too. I mean, this sounds maybe boastful or prideful, but I've had such great meetings. God has done some incredible things. I was traveling a great deal in the States, and I would just tell them, hey, we're going to reach our nation. I've had 5 or 6 churches in the States say, you know what, we're going to reach our city, we're going to reach our county, or we're going to reach our state. So as I travel, having that influence as well, to me is very exciting. Then, of course, I'm generating revenue for Bearing Precious Seed wherever I go and helping us to get that done. By the way, I was excited to share with your church on Sunday nights. I told them I was keeping them waiting to share with them the good news of what God is doing. And God is doing some incredible things. And I'll tell you this, that not only did God give us a gentleman who's going to, match up to $200,000 in contributions, we have another organization that is just waiting to present us with an amount of money as well. And we don't know the amount yet, but we know that it's going to be in the range of another $200,000 to $300,000, $500,000 for Bearing Precious Seed in the next few months to come. So that's gonna put out a lot of John Romans, and that is gonna fast forward us to getting this country done. Now the only bad news is, in the video that we showed, it said that we're 8 million of the 13 million homes. Canada Post has informed us we're now at 14.5 million homes.
Those homes keep getting built.
The homes keep getting built.
Yeah.
Immigrants are coming.
I heard a stat a long time ago that if it wasn't for immigrants moving to Canada, our country would actually be dying.
Yeah, we would.
So every year there's thousands and thousands of new people coming to our country.
250,000 immigrants a year coming to Canada over the last number of years. Yes.
Yeah. So it's just
240,000 of them Filipinos.
Yeah. Well, praise the Lord. It's always exciting when a family is reunited, and we've seen that in our church, and it's just awesome to see families come together and reunite and join our church. And in our country, if it wasn't for Filipinos, a lot of churches would be struggling right now.
Yeah, most of the growth that I'm seeing in Canada is by immigrant population coming. White Anglo-Canadians are not flocking to church. And unfortunately, Bible Baptist Church in St. Thomas was very white Anglo-Canadian. In the 30 years that I pastored there, we had 4 families that were of a different ethnic group. And that was it. So it really made it tough, but we did great things by the grace of God. But man, I would have loved to have some Filipinos. It would have been great.
He's jealous of our church.
I am jealous. I'm so jealous of you.
Well, we're gonna just dive into something else that I wanted to talk about. And if you, I don't know if you noticed, but we have some mugs here.
Yes.
We do have one thing in common. We do love Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
I'm sure we have many things, but we love Tim Hortons. I love Tim Hortons. Our church knows that. They know that about you now. But they might not know about a podcast that you are involved in.
Right.
So why don't you tell us about your podcast and give us some basic information, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more.
A dear friend of mine that I worked with when I was in Cleveland as a young man right out of Bible college, his name was Dan Wolven, and Dan was the bus director of the Cleveland Baptist Church at about 23, 24 years of age. I worked under him as the assistant bus director as a 21-year-old young man, and Dan was an incredible boss. He was an incredible leader, and is now an incredible pastor. And he pastors now in Columbus, Ohio. So we've got 40 years of history together, and we share a common type of sense of humor. We're very sarcastic. We're very caustic. We love to laugh, and we love to make people laugh. And Dan has an incredible laugh himself. He sounds like a 60-year-old lady who's been smoking her entire life when he laughs.
Yeah, he does. He sounds like he smoked a pack of cigarettes before.
Yeah. Now, I can assure you he hasn't. He's down to a half a pack. No, he doesn't smoke. But he is a great preacher. And he, like I, grew up in the independent fundamental Baptist church age, where things were a little tighter. Tighter is not the word. A little more rigid, regimented in that day, where it was you do this and you don't break out of this, and if you do, then you're compromising. And so Dan holds a little more to that right of center position, and I would be a little closer to, we need to make some changes. We can do things differently today and still be a church. Like you guys, having to find a place to meet. You've had to think out of the box. There's not a church building available to you. And here's what I've come to realize. In my younger life, church was a church building with a steeple on it. And if you met anywhere else, it was like, that's not church. But that's not the church. The church is not the building. The church is what's in the building. And the building doesn't really matter. As long as it's, not something, completely opposite of the Word of God, we can use that. And you're doing that. And I appreciate that you're doing that.
I know that, if I could, in rural Canada, I'm sure I could find a church building that we could rent. But here in North Vancouver, they're just not available. And so you have to think outside the box. We've met in community center for years. Is it perfect? No. Is it always nice? No, but it meets a purpose. And we're always looking for a place that's nice, that's comfortable, that's exciting, that it's, want to invite people to come to. But ultimately, it's not about the building. It's the people. The people are the church. And if we're using that building for that time, it's the house of God. And we look forward to meeting in the house of God, whatever building that is in.
Right, as long as you can meet.
Yeah.
And so Dan called me one day and he goes, "Hey, I want to start a podcast." And I said, "What's that?" And he said, it's kind of a radio type program for the internet. And I said, "Oh, that's awesome." And this is how God works. When I was a young man at Cleveland Baptist Church, I had an opportunity to work at a radio station. And so I did radio. And I learned how to use my voice on the radio. And it was WCCD, Cleveland's Christian Connection. And so I worked at that radio station. I volunteered to work for free if they would just teach me how to do it. And God used that to help prepare me for this podcast. And so he's in Columbus. I'm in Canada. We record a Zoom call. We do a Zoom call, and then we record that digitally, and then we put that together, and we have Tim Talks, Taking Interest in Ministry. TIIM Talks.com is the website, or you can catch it on all of the podcast avenues of Spotify, Apple, all of those, any of those that are available. So you can catch that. So what we did is we said, let's make it two guys reflecting on ministry and talking about those things that worked and didn't work. And so I said, here's what we do in Canada. We go to Tim Hortons and we sit across the table from each other and we talk. That's where we do business. That's where we fellowship. And when people come to our town, I say, go to the first Tim Hortons, turn right. Go to the next Tim Hortons, turn left. Then go to the next Tim Hortons, and you're very close to my house. 9 Tim Hortons in our town of 40,000. So I start each broadcast with, welcome to Tim Talks. A big slurp of coffee, and it goes from there. And so it's just
hopefully
fun.
that slurp doesn't drive you nuts.
No, you can fast forward past it.
Okay.
If you listen to the first 400 of them. We're at episode 450.
450.
Yeah.
Wow.
We've done over the last couple of years.
Yeah. So what's your schedule?
Our schedule is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We try to do about 15 to 20 minutes. We keep it short so that you can play it while you're going to school with the kids, or on your way to church, or on your way to work. And we try to leave enough that you want to listen to the next one. And we cover all kinds of things. We're gearing what we're doing to basically Manny's age. We want that younger preacher, and yourself, we want those younger preachers to be able to draw from our experience. And here's what I've found. Younger men sometimes don't want to ask, but older men always want to tell. We want to pass on what we've learned. I want to save you some of the headaches and heartaches that I had to go through, just like a parent with their children. And so we talk about a lot of ministry things, how to baptize, how to do communion, when people get upset, when people leave the church, when people get apathetic, how to deal with when people die, how to make a hospital call. And we do that with a great deal of humor. And I have to tell you that the humor is probably a little more sometimes than the actual content. But here's what we've had people tell us. We need to laugh. In the ministry, there are times when you need to just laugh. And not only are we speaking to preachers, we're speaking to church people. I'm going to teach you how to take care of your pastoral staff and how to enhance their ministry, making your ministry better. And so that Tim Talks podcast, I would really encourage you just to start listening. We have our wives on sometimes, and pastors' wives and ladies in the church absolutely love when my wife and Denise Wolven speak to them. They're just great ladies with great wisdom. And so I will tell you that a large portion of our listening audience, we figure there's somewhere between 1,700 and 2,000 people that listen. And I would tell you that a large percentage of them are actually young people. And they like it, and they want to know. I did a video thing one time at Brother Belivo's, and I just took some kids off a high school school ground, and I said, hey, I want to ask you something. What can my generation do for your generation? And this is what they said. Unsaved kids, I mean worldly kids. They said, teach us how to live life. Nobody's teaching us. Teach us how to have a family, how to spend our money and save it, and how to get through the hardships of life. And that's really what Tim Talks is doing for a Christian audience.
A long time ago, I heard this phrase, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
And the reason why I listen to podcasts is to help me grow. And I listen to several different podcasts. I do listen to Tim Talks on a regular basis, and I enjoy them. I can listen to them while I'm driving. I can listen to them while I'm, moving from one point to the other. And I can't maybe I can't read because I'm doing something else, but I can listen. And they help me think outside the box. They help me think about what's going on in my day-to-day life and ministry, and it helps me grow. And it challenges my way of thinking at times, which is a good thing. And, sometimes you think, well, I'm older now and I don't need to grow. There's always room to grow. And there's always an opportunity to think, to think outside the box, to be challenged in areas and start looking and analyzing at things and saying, we did it this way for so long. Is that the right way to do it? Or should we stick by, certain things that we've done in our lives, and what's important and what's not? And there's so many different things you talk about. I mean, you talk about, if there's a topic, you talk about it, right?
Oh yeah. And we ask people, and I would encourage you as a listener today, contact me at dralstone@gmail.com, DRALSTONE, Dr. Al Stone, and send me any questions you have. And I have all kinds of people from churches. What do you think about this? Would you talk about this? And so we do that. And one of the things I love is that in talking to Pastor Josh, he gives me a younger man's vantage point. And I take that back and talk about it on Tim Talks and say to Brother Wolf, what do you think about this? Here's a church that's going to do something completely different. What do you think about that? And we discuss it. And I'm learning from it. I've had some great young preachers contact me and say, here's an issue. And you talked to me about one while we're here. Some guys that have a podcast that are fundamentalists but have come out of fundamentalism, and they had some hard feelings. They had some hardship about that, and we talked about that. I'm going to deal with that because I know there are people that leave fundamentalism, and we've had a lot of people Manny's age leave fundamentalism, and that troubles me. So I'm gonna deal with it. I'm gonna talk about that and find out why, and then maybe get some remedy to that. How do we keep young people like Navarro's, like your family? How do we keep them in our churches?
Yeah,
it's a good topic.
It is a great podcast. Do you listen to podcasts, Pastor Manny?
I do when I have.
Yeah, you're a busy man.
Well, he's married.
Do you listen to Tim Talks?
Sleep.
I have not done it for a while.
Oh,
so,
okay.
I am sorry about that.
Wow.
But after what I heard from Pastor Stone, it sounds like it'd be very beneficial to me, because I do have a lot of questions as well sometimes, but I don't ask them. So this would be also a good thing as well for me.
While you're rocking the baby at 2-3 in the morning, put on the headphones. Don't wake up your wife, and listen. Like I say, 15 minutes driving to work. Again, it'll just cheer your heart a lot of times. This last one, the last week we just did, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, was on COVID, overcoming the COVID blues kind of thing. And so we talk about, getting our joy, and we just tell some hilarious stories of visitation and some of the things that happen on visitation. And it's just a source of joy. So it's one of those ones that it's not real teachy, but it's definitely a help, I think.
Something that I'm definitely going to start doing now, for sure.
Wow,
it's gonna
another
be,
Timmy. We call people, Timmies, and women Timette. And if you're going to be that noisy and loud, we're going to have to. The coaster.
Bottom of my coffee.
I'll listening to Tim Talks. I'll bring that up. Shout out to Brother Manny.
All right. Well, I do want to thank you for joining us tonight, and we're kind of right where the time we'd want to end. Thanks for coming to our Wednesday midweek service, our after revival reflections.
I love it.
I love it. So I don't know if that's a new podcast.
That could be.
Yeah. I should either start up my own podcast or join your podcast.
You can join us.
Oh, I can join you?
Yeah, we don't need any more competition.
Oh. I think I love the podcast because I like hearing the issues of today from our viewpoint and from where we believe and how I grew up. And sometimes you can, if you're listening to people that are, of course, of a different stripe, or they've made different decisions in your life, they're always going to have a viewpoint that's going to be biased. And of course, we know that we're a little biased too. But I don't want to just listen to one type of, say, podcast that's not independent, fundamental, and then that'll skew my thinking in one direction. And I really think you have a very balanced approach, and I do appreciate that.
And I do listen to the other podcasts as well to kind of get that whole view, because I know we have room for improvement. The church is constantly growing. It's transforming in different ages, and if we are going to succeed in this day, there's some things that we're going to have to do. I mean, video. I mean, 15, 20 years ago, this was unheard of that we'd reach out that way. And here we're able to do it today. So change is not always bad. There's some good things.
Yeah, you can implement changes without compromising.
Right.
And compromising your doctrine, of course.
And let me say that Pastor's been on my Tim Talks program and will be again, because I do like his fresh view of things. And he's not afraid to be a little controversial. And he's said to me, he said, sometimes you get right to the point and you don't cross over. And I'm going to take that to heart and kind of go a little farther.
Well, if things go bad, don't blame me.
Oh, I'm blaming you. I always blame you.
All right. Well, as we come to a close, is there one thing you'd like to leave our church with before you head off and go back to your next church? I think you're preaching here in the city, but before you leave, is there something you'd like to say to Lionsgate Baptist Church?
Lionsgate Baptist Church, I love you and I appreciate you, and you have some great men who are leading you. Please follow their leadership. They want what's best for your church. And then I want to say that what you've heard over these last 3 or 4 days in our revival need to be before you often. Go back. Here's another great thing. Go back and watch it periodically. Just review again and recap. I have preached the messages that I preached to you before. I've preached them a couple times. And I have to tell you that every time I preach it, I find something new, or I find something a little more exciting within the text that I'm reading. And so it's good to do that. We listen to music over and over. You'll have a favorite song and listen to it all the time. And we make a mistake in not going back and reviewing some preaching and think, well, I've already heard that. Embrace that, love that, and get that in your life. And then I want to encourage you, do more than you have ever done for Christ in this COVID time. Don't let it distract you. Don't let it, disrupt you like they tried to do in Ezra's time. Stay at it and be more active. You ought to be bringing more guests than you've ever brought. I know there's not room for everybody, but there's ways you can do that. Bring them to your house and watch the live stream. Thank you. The live stream. Have times of having people in, as we can do it safely, and just share the gospel. Keep those things going, and then start praying now for next year. I'm going to ask God to do something greater than He's ever done at that revival next year. And my wife should be able to come with me, and she always adds to that. And I just want to see God do something extraordinary. I believe that churches like this, that your church, are the key to revival in our nation. And I'm praying God uses you in a very special way. So thank you again.
And thank you, Dr. Stone, for that.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Manny, for joining us. And thank you for joining us on Revival Reflections. Have a great evening.
Tim Talks. See you there soon.
Bye-bye.